All right. Hey Morten, and welcome to Onto Something.
Thank you. Thanks
Peter
for
has,
inviting me.
as you might know, yeah,
Oh,
you're
we have a
welcome. Nice that
delay.
you could fill
Okay,
in.
interesting.
There's a little bit of delay. Yeah, let's see if we
Yeah.
can work through it. But Peter has, as you might know, a million jobs by now, and he's a busy guy. So I thought that instead of skipping another week, I would bring in a guest. And so here you are, friend of the podcast, at least friend of mine for I don't know, seems like
15 years.
many years.
Yeah.
I think we've only met once actually
Yeah.
in San Francisco, but we've
Exactly.
been following each other for it seems like ages. I think you started your career as like mostly an ideas guy, and I say that in like
Yeah.
the
Yeah, that's
non-derogative
true.
fashion.
Yeah.
But after many years of having to wait for developers, you jumped into it yourself as well, and now you
Yes.
are the king of a potato themed app empire.
Yes.
Is
Thanks
that
for
true?
saying that. Yes.
So it started out with the Rotato, which was the as like an app that helps you make like these the product videos where the iPhone's like flying in. The camera zooms around it and it looks really nice.
That's right. That is, I was just thinking about that today. That is 2019. Actually, I made the first beta in 18. So that's 7 years ago, very soon. At Christmas, right? This Christmas at 7 years ago. And yeah, that's really fast. And then in 2019, I was convinced that I could, make a living, quit my job, and that's where I still am.
Still
That's crazy.
rotating for iPhones.
Still rotating. Yeah,
That's great. But like you worked at Google for quite a while,
yeah, a decade.
and
Yeah,
was a big part of the watch launch. Is that right?
yeah. That was, like you said, idea guy. That was a Friday bar in Zurich 15 years ago, something like that. We said, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could have a computer on the wrist?" And then we just started jamming because it was Google, right? So you're supposed to jam on these things. And then we sort of got a grassroots movement going at Google. So we gathered all these 20% workers who would like do their own little thing. We made an Android prototype. I hacked together a PHP prototype, and we just went from hackathon to hackathon until we finally could merge with Android and make it real. 4 years later.
That's that's wild.
Uh,
But that was before the Apple Watch too, right?
that was 1 year before we got released ours 1 year before. We started working on it 4 years, 5 years before Apple released theirs. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so even the launch of the Google Watches was before the Apple Watch.
Yeah, that was IO
Oh, yeah.
14 and Apple Watch was 15, as
And you
far
had
as I
some round
remember.
faces as well. So you had to like work like both deliver round and square UI. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Wow,
yeah. Yeah.
that's
From the
crazy.
get-go, we did the round watch. Yeah. We were expecting Apple to do it a little bit earlier, but maybe this year.
Yeah, maybe. You're still counting on a round watch at some point?
Hey, I mean, it would make sense, right? I mean, there's no reason that a watch should be square, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So, and before that, you worked in Denmark in a bunch of startups, some mobile themed as well. There was some contact syncing, something like that, over
That
Bluetooth, like
was,
way back in the day.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Imity from proximity. So this is really, really long
A
time
deep cut.
ago. This was for Java phones, right? This was before the iPhone.
Oh, right.
We would just turn on Bluetooth, keep it on forever in your pocket, burn the battery within a few hours. But we would then and that was also before Bluetooth got all these privacy features. So we could just be in the pocket and discover all the Bluetooth devices that you're seeing, log them in a database, Ruby on Rails. Um, and then we could do like interesting stuff. Like if, for instance, we've only met online, I could say, well, beep uh, my phone if I'm close to Mikkel in real life. And we had a couple of success stories like that. People who never met, they read each other's blogs, and then all of a sudden they're in the same bar and they become best friends.
Yeah, wow. There was really the early days of like, I'll just open my phone to the world. What can happen?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
only
totally.
good things
Yeah,
can come from
fine.
this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the biggest concern was battery life, not privacy.
Yeah. Those were the days. Like I remember tweeting from my phone with SMS a few times. It felt like a brand new world.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So so from Imity to Zip, I think you got acquired by Vodafone at some point.
Then,
Did some
yeah,
other things,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
then it was Google. Yeah, and then
yeah.
Google until Rotato, the Empire.
I actually did after Imity, we ran out of money and stuff, so I took a consultancy gig at Adobe in Boston, in the US, and in London, and got my bank account filled up again. That was really nice. That was fun experience as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's sometimes necessary. Just get a refill, regen. Many years as an ideas guy. Is it true? Like the how I stated, like frustratingly waiting for developers. Is that what got you to eventually learning to code?
No, it wasn't. But I mean, looking back, I should have learned it earlier for that reason. But the reason that I learned to code was while I was in Android. So I've always been able to do a little bit of scripting, right? JavaScript. I did the Ruby on Rails front end for Imity, so I kind of knew how to
All
get
right.
around.
Okay. Yeah.
But that was the biggest. I couldn't do databases. I couldn't do backends and stuff like that. At Android, I had a really hard time convincing the engineers to do like what I wanted, very specific front end things in the Android interface. And sometimes they would say, you can't do that, or sometimes they would say it takes too long. And then I was like, screw it, I'm gonna learn, and then I'm gonna tell them how to do it. That
Yeah.
was that was tough, but yeah, I managed to do it in the end.
Yeah, because to me it looked like you started with. I mean, aside from the scripting, you started with Swift. You like jumped in at the deep end with just like learning to make macOS and iOS apps.
Yeah, I didn't know better, I think. So I jumped in at the deep end in Android in Java. This was before Kotlin and all those things.
All
So
right. Yeah.
I sort of got used to just looking at something I didn't understand and then, fidgeting with some of it here and there. I actually then one evening downloaded an app that you had made, put it on GitHub.
All
I
right.
think it was it DRTV
Yeah.
streaming or something like that?
Yeah.
I was in San
Something like that.
Francisco, so I was wondering maybe it would work for me. Um, and then I was just looking at your code. I didn't understand anything at all, but that was kind of I got it to compile for somehow, and then I just took it from there. Yeah,
Nice, nice. I'm happy to have inspired you with
yeah, you did, you did.
my dinkiness, my
Yeah,
just do it attitude, I guess. That's great. And so that eventually became Rotato. Was that like yeah? So the app is that you make scenes. It's almost like a 3D app, and you make scenes like you would in Blender or whatever, and then the phone starts rotating in. So what inspired that?
that was a yeah, that was a really interesting round trip. So basically, at the time, I was at Google when I started making it, and I just come back from visiting the US. I was visiting to meet with Sundar Pichai, who canceled my project. So we didn't really have anything to do, and Google didn't know what to do with us because should we be, uh, should we try and merge back with Android? We had started our own little thing in the incubator business. I think that's around when you came to San Francisco. We talked about it. I maybe even have tried to hire you. I'm not sure, but uh, I was really
it,
desperate for hiring people at the time.
it
Um,
was it was really subtle if you tried.
okay.
I didn't notice at least.
um, no, yeah, yeah. Anyway, I'm pretty sure I did because we talked about
Maybe, yeah.
you had some reasons to stay at Elastic, whatever it was.
At least I had
Um,
reasons to stay in Denmark. I think that was probably
maybe,
more like
yeah,
it.
could be that. Could be that small trip.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we were in this weird vacuum zone where Google didn't expect us to do anything. And I was just, in the beginning, I was just dialing into random manager meetings, super boring. And then I did some cleaning at home. And then I was like, okay, I could at least watch the WWDC about AR Kit. It was a new thing, AR Kit. I think it was version 2 back in 2018. And then I just
That's
looked at
the
that.
augmented reality
Exactly, yeah. That's
kit.
the
Yeah.
like the SDK for building AR experiences on the phone. Um, and I was
Yeah.
really impressed by how far they got with it. Like for such a small feature, that was really weird, right? And it turned out that was because of the glasses that they had put so much effort into it. But I was really impressed. And I was impressed with the technology. And I just started building prototypes like crazy, like one a week, and then put them on Twitter, see how people reacted. I made like a drawing app. I made a money counter and stuff like that. And it got a lot of traction on Twitter and it was fun. And maybe, the next idea would be somewhere in this space.
So the money counter was like you just hover your camera over the cash, and then it
And it
totals
would
it.
show, yeah, Fight Club style with text sticking
Yeah.
to the notes, like how much is this and in currencies and stuff. Yeah. It was super fun to make. And then I sort of got into the 3D world and I'm like, oh, at the time I was trying to learn how to draw. So I made an iPad app where I just purchased 3D models, put them on my iPad, and then I could, learn how to draw from them. And then one day I pulled in a phone because I wanted to learn how to draw a phone, which is a little bit silly because it's really just a rectangle. So it was easy. And then I was like, wait, I could put something on the screen. And then I did that. And I go, wait, this should just be a drag and drop thing. It should be a Mac app. So I just slowly started, like maybe 45 minutes one day, then an hour, one another day. My team was still in San Francisco, so they didn't wake up until my 3 p.m. So I had some time there working on Rotato. And then in parallel, something else happened, which was there was a new guy that started at Area 120, that was the incubator at Google, and he was pitching his idea with a 3D video, mock-up video. And something incredible happened when he showed that to the group, probably 50 people or something like that. People started applauding. They'd never applauded after a pitch ever. And I was like, that is interesting. So
Yeah.
I emailed him after the meeting and said, that was an impressive pitch video. How did you make it? And he was like, well, I took a negative mask in After Effects and then Cinema 4D. And I couldn't understand a word of what he said. I'm like, maybe I should go back and revisit that prototype I'd made with the 3D mockup in the Mac OS app and see if I can make that work. And so that was like, that was the moment where I was like, oh, I'm not building an AI app, I'm building a Mac app, and I'm doing this. And then 6 months later, I'm looking for inspiration for templates. And then I see the exact video this guy had shown. I'm like, wow, he sold it to Envato or whatever it was, Video Hive. No, that was another guy. So this guy who had impressed everyone, who had gotten like an applause, had just purchased a template. He never knew how to do it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, I won.
Fake it till you make it,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So yeah. So but your app has templates as well. So like the pitch for your app is like impress your coworkers, get the
Exactly.
applause with like a
Get the
minimal
applause.
effort.
That's it. Exactly. That's
Oh,
that's
that's
the
right.
strategy.
This is all before any vibe coding at all, right? There's no LLMs. You have to Google everything and look it up on Stack Overflow.
Yes.
Like one
I
problem
saw,
at a time.
and it was before Swift UI as well. So it was like super deep end. You remember this, right? Collection views and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I had a
faintly remember
rule.
it.
Yeah, I had this rule of thumb that, I could probably make a collection view, basically like a list of items in a grid or in a list. I could probably do that in one day, and that would be a good outcome, right?
Yeah,
And today
yeah,
it's like one command, one sentence to
yeah,
code, and they'll do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. You seem to have like a coming back to the idea guy. You seem to have like a skill of distilling down ideas to like a minimal, I guess, format or like
Yeah.
a distilled format so that they really resonate. You have had like many hit tweets over the years
Yeah. Yeah,
of like
it's
just
weird. I can
showing
never
a
predict that.
simple,
Yeah.
yeah, simple prototype, just like the distilled idea in a format and a way that's like short enough to spread, but still long enough to like give the whole idea, I guess. What's
I
the
think it also comes from trying a lot of times, and most of the time it just doesn't work. People don't care, they don't understand. I have this friend who I always speak to after I tweet it, and he's like, "Nobody understands that one. That's why it doesn't get any retweets or likes." I'm like, shit, you're right. Looking at it again, I can see this is like super insidery, and then it just falls flat. But then people don't see it and they don't notice that. But yeah.
Yeah, but what's the secret there? What's your internal process of like how do you how do you think of your ideas in like from the outside in, I guess?
I think I think a lot of it is very visceral. So it's not like something that I do. I don't have a checklist or anything like that, but I try to make it huge and very simple, right? I try to make the video zoom in. It's so often that I see on Twitter
Okay,
someone
so like
screenshotting their entire screen. This was also before Screen Studio. Screen Studio
yeah.
helped a lot, right? With the
Yeah,
automatic zooming and all that stuff. But yeah, basically
right.
zoom in, make it extremely simple, just zoom it in so it's almost like ridiculously large, because people are
Yeah.
going to watch it on a phone, people are going to watch it while they're scrolling, so they don't have time to see any details at all. But if they see just one little thing that is weird or simple or easy to understand, they're going to stop just for a minute, see, oh, what's that about?
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so so help them like just just basically
Yeah,
see what's going on
yeah, exactly.
by
Yeah, yeah,
maybe overdoing it, I guess. Like zoom in
yeah,
a little bit further than what's comfortable on your big size
yeah,
editing
yeah.
27-inch monitor.
Yeah, and I think people have a natural tendency to be drawn to something that is easy to understand,
Yeah.
especially on Twitter, right? Where it's just like, oh, that wall of text, I'm not reading that. But here is like a weird image, or here's something that moves, and then maybe that can make them stop.
Yeah, so visual like a video, an image. And I guess also it's like straight to the point. Don't start out like,
Straight
"Hey
to the point.
guys,
Yeah.
here's a thing that I made. I
Yeah,
spent
yeah,
two
yeah.
years doing this." Just like
And
show show
this is now being perfected on TikTok and YouTube Shorts and stuff like that, right?
probably, yeah.
It's almost like a reverse storytelling. I think I've seen someone describe it like that, where you start with the
Yeah.
end, you start with the outcome, and then you have people hooked. They want to see, how did you make that? What is that? How did you get into that situation?
Yeah. Yeah, you see that with the cooking videos reminds me of. It's like the first
Yeah,
frame is the guy
the
or girl
final.
like
Yeah,
taking a big bite
yeah,
of the
yeah,
sandwich. And it is like, okay, rewind.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
Scratch.
the movie trope of like, yeah, that's me. Let me tell you the story
Yup,
of how I
that's
got
me.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah. The record scratch.
that's exactly it.
Yeah. All right. So that led you to Rotato, which struck a nerve, I guess, got quite popular and still sells a bunch of copies, I suppose. I assume because it's like, uh, and this is almost like the same idea that by adding a video of your product, it's gonna look finished in another sense. It's gonna look more impressive. Like it's just like even a to-do app, right? It's gonna look better if it's flying in from the side.
I mean, that's the thing. You learn as a designer, you learn that there are certain tricks that'll make your design look nicer. and one is like zooming out a little bit, makes it look nicer. The contour and the textures sort of stand out that way. And then it's when you see it on your phone. So we were at Android, it was like design something, then transfer it to the phone or to the watch. Oh, now I can see what it actually looks like. So I'm a big believer in that, and also just a big believer in making my work look nicer than it is, um, or just look nicer. And I've actually documented this. I haven't gotten around um, to publicize it, but I hired a researcher from a university in San Diego a couple of years ago, and I told him, you have to come up with a way that we can document that using 3D mockups will make you appear more professional, will make someone more likely to try an app out if they see it in a mockup. And so he came up with this interesting study where he would show just enough people so that there would be significance. He would show like one group without mockups and one group with mockups. But he didn't tell them that it was about mockups. He just told them, here's a design. What do you think?
Yeah.
And then asked them to rate it, right? So it was the same design on both, but one was with mockups. And it turned out that pretty quickly we got confidence. I think it was around 300 people. So we did it in a survey, in a Google survey. Around 300 people came to the conclusion that when there was mockups involved, they would give it a letter grade higher. So what if you would have gotten a B, they would give it an A, a full
Wow.
letter grade. Yeah.
So a whole grade.
So it's a really good sales argument for Rotato. We just haven't gotten around to doing anything with it.
Yeah, that's interesting, and also interesting that you found a real researcher. That you you didn't just like say it.
No,
Just
I
say it.
wanted to make it really credible, and I was also curious, right? I was kind of
Yeah,
fearing that he would come back and say, well, with the mockups is actually worse.
that
But
is really
yeah,
interesting. It's something that I found with some open source projects as well. If you like go through the last step of making the README just look a little bit professional, it's gonna set it so much apart. It's like
yeah,
it
yeah,
goes from dinky weekend project to something that, oh, this looks like someone actually made an effort here.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are like these indicators of this is a cool project. Like it has a
Yeah,
logo, it has
yeah,
a snippet, it has like these things. Yeah.
yeah. It's funny what does it, and I know it for myself as well. Looking at a project, you like immediately tell if this is like someone's own solution or it's like a viable, widely used, I don't know, product. Yeah, it's just crazy. So, other than Rotato, you have other Otato apps. What's the current roster of Otato the Empire?
So Flotato is still alive. It was born in 2019 as well. So Flotato is basically a way to make a website, an app on your Mac. And then with a few tricks, sort of like you could make it a mobile app, so it takes up less space. Something like X or Twitter doesn't really require a lot of real estate. You can see that in their desktop UI, right? They're like, what are we going to do with all this space? We're not going to make columns. That's too much. So we're just going to make people scroll this tiny sliver. So if it were but on mobile, it's fine, right? It's almost like it's born for mobile. So what if we just put that mobile version on your desktop, and then it would just be a tiny little window, and you would still have the same benefit from it. So that was Flotato, and that actually got more traction on Twitter than Rotato. I For a moment I thought, okay, this is going to
Wow.
be way bigger than Rotato. It got back in the day, it got 1 million views, which was unheard of for me,
Yeah.
at least. And that was because of this little tiny trick, which was you could take the Flotato app, duplicate the app file, rename it Gmail, and it would automatically notice that it had been renamed. It would get a Gmail logo, use that as the app logo, and when you double clicked it, it would open Gmail. So you could
So yeah,
you could set it
so you
up
could get
just by
an email
renaming
client.
it. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah. And this was just
And
in your code, like looking at what am I called?
Exactly. Just to open it up and see what's my name, and then go from
Who
there.
am I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So, and this is similar to what you can do by in every browser almost now, like add to dock in Safari or make into
Yeah,
Mac
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
Chrome, right? Yeah.
And honestly, I think they're way better. But people still buy Flirtato for reasons they have, where they want like it did some tricks in the dock and it did a few small things. People still think it's nice to buy, and it's super cheap as well. So yeah.
Nice. And those are the two. I think you had have tried a few more at least.
Oh yeah, there's a lot more. Then there's iTato, which was also 2019. So you can imagine me in 2019. Holy shit, I'm launching Rotato, Flotato, iTato. I could go like
Yeah.
this three per year, and at that time, Rotato was making 5 or 6 thousand a month, right? Which would to me was like mind blowing that this could. Where did this money come from, right? I just made something with
Yeah.
my hands. So I made iTato, which was a very early AI app. Um, I actually got like into problems on Twitter because people didn't believe it was AI. But it was. I found a university that had made something called a saliency model. So they basically train a deep neural network with where people look on images. And that's a data set MIT has. So they just trained a model. Then I went through the hassle of converting, I think it was PyTorch to Core ML, and then I just put it into an app. And then the idea was you could put your design, you're a designer, so you put, let's say, a UI or a poster or whatever, and it would show a heat map of where people are likely to look without running, without having to run an eye tracking test, which is super costly and time consuming and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, did you find the dataset first, or did you
Yeah,
get the idea first? Yeah.
the idea came from Apple's WWDC again, where they were advertising that they now have the saliency API that you can use to figure out where to crop an image. So if I was cropping your pane on the video here, it would always be the image, the face would be in the middle because that's where people look. Um, but I thought, well, that's incredible. That's an amazing thing. And saliency is a pretty old discipline in AI. It's one of the first things that started to work. Yeah. So I just played around with. So I just found that was for the next macOS version. So I couldn't really, release an app with that using that feature until fall or maybe even a year later when people had upgraded to macOS 11 or what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. And by the way, what do you have like a single place that people can find these apps? Is it
Yeah, it's
Otato or
on
something?
Otato, so not Rotato, but Otato.app.
Dot
Otato.app.
app.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a few more we have to go through. There's Talktato. By the way, like, was this just like deciding on the name Rotato and then thinking like,
No,
oh, I'll just go with this?
everything happened randomly and accidentally. It was just easy. And I was like, oh, okay, I really love the name Rotato.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, should it be Rotada? Should it be Rotata? What should it be? And then I asked a guy called Jakob Funk. He's a founder of a company that I invested in called Proper. And I asked him, so which one should it be? And he was like, no, none of these. Rotato. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let's do it. Yeah,
There it
absolutely.
is.
Yeah. And then Flirtato
That's
just
great.
came. So if there's one thing I don't want to spend a lot of time on, it's like the logo, the domain name, the name, right? That's not value. That's not where the value is. At least that's what I thought back then. I'm not really sure
Yeah.
anymore, but that's what I thought. And so I asked an identity designer a couple of years later to make me a system so I can just tweak a Figma file and get a new logo. So I didn't have to
Nice.
reinvent a logo every time. Yeah.
And do you still have that? So it's like a dynamic Figma file where you just change like
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
goes
yeah.
before the 80 and then
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's just a very simple. I asked her to make something very simple that even I could make really fast. So it's
nice.
really just one vector line that I have to bend in another way, and now I have a new logo.
Yeah, okay. So like with the Bezier curves, you're like tuning the
Yeah, 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 yeah.
the little squares. All right, that's crazy. One thing that you've been good at, I think, as well, is to turn something that seems to be a problem into a tool instead of just telling everyone the fix. What I'm thinking of specifically is the compressor tool that you had, like a um what's it called, where you embed the C code in the browser. What's it called?
Awesome. Yeah,
Wasm,
WebAssembly.
that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah, WebAssembly, the FFmpeg version of like you embedded web FFmpeg into a web page to
yeah,
compress
yeah,
videos losslessly, almost, at least like visually losslessly, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I just like assume that that came from people asking you, like, how can I make my video outputs from I don't know, Rotato smaller?
No, that came from me needing smaller videos to put on the site. Because I was seeing like it was just really bad. Like videos by in general are just huge, and they don't have to be, but they're
Yeah,
huge so that you can edit them and do things with them. Um, and nobody really knows. I didn't know, at least, that you can, if you know exactly what your video is for, like putting it online, then you can make it small. Um, then this is also like a super weird path. I'm working with a guy called Jens Fursund, who also has a small stake in the company now. We were thinking, hey, we should build an AI app that can edit videos. So we called that Clipler. And so what it did was you dragged in a video and then you could just type, make it black and white and 9:16 uh, aspect ratio. And it would then use what probably GPT 3.5 or whatever it was at the time to create a FFmpeg string. And so it was at that time we found out, hey, we can actually do this in the browser with WASM, with WebAssembly, and it runs really nicely in the browser. Um, the Clipler itself just failed. It didn't do a good job, and we were like angry at it, and we gave up after a couple of months and moved on to the next thing. But I had this thing in my mind now that, oh, wait a minute. I mean, you can run FFmpeg in the browser. That's pretty incredible. So
yeah.
just one day, I just made this compressor app and put it on Twitter. And I had some fun building a nice UI for it as well. And I think that was the UI that did it for Twitter. Like they could really see, you had this slider where you can see before and after. You had the
Yeah,
numbers that went up. All of this is like stuff that is easy and simple to understand when you're scrolling Twitter. So a lot of people stopped scrolling, and then something incredible happened. People got furious because it was a another FFmpeg wrapper, right?
yeah.
And that's a crime, apparently. You cannot
I
wrap stuff.
I don't think there's a single video app that's not an
Yeah,
FFmpeg
yeah,
wrapper
yeah,
at this
yeah, yeah.
point.
But it was amazing for engagement, and it got like, I think 4 million views, if I remember correctly, which is a lot. And a lot of people came in there, and a lot of people started linking to tools.rotator.app, where it is, which then gave Rotato a lot of juice and started selling more Rotato licenses. And at one point, we were like, well, maybe we should just, make some lemon juice here and create a desktop app and sell that for those who need it to compress files that are more than 2 GB, which is the limit in the browser.
Because of
So,
memory
yeah, yeah, yeah.
issues. Yeah,
You can't get more than that currently in WebAssembly. It's also slightly slow because you can't really do, or FFmpeg isn't optimized for the GPU in the
of course.
browser.
Yeah, yeah.
So there was a lot of reasons to do a desktop app, so we did that, and that's now a part of the revenue stream.
But it isn't called something. It's called Compresso. That's right.
Compressor, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Compressed
I think
Tato was the
Compresto
yeah, Compresto.
is almost like. Have you heard about the how the young people have this thing called Italian brain rot?
No, what is
It's
that?
a
Yeah,
it's a new
I think I
meme
heard it.
format thing. is like espresso macchiato or something Italian sounding, with like all these characters that are AI generated and have Italian sounding names, which are just
Oh,
like
yeah, yeah, it's
complete
close to that.
complete
Yeah,
gibberish. But
yeah,
nice to know that the young people are finding their own ways.
yeah,
Yeah, it's really good. And then are there any left? There's Upscalo, Toctato,
yeah. Upscaler, just
an upscaling
previous
thing.
generation AI for uploading for upscaling images. That one also got a huge run on Twitter because it just looks amazing when you upscale something. And it's just
Yeah.
it's unexpected, just like Compresso, it's unexpected that you can actually get this, or it was unexpected at the time you could get this kind of quality out of it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Is the old another movie trope of like enhance computer
Yeah,
enhance
yeah, yeah,
this,
yeah.
and
Oh
now it
yeah, yeah,
actually
exactly,
works.
exactly. People loved making that joke in the comments, and they didn't bother to read that 15 other people had just made it in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah,
So they were in there, oh, computer, enhance. Everyone is like that.
yeah. That's like it reminds me of the old XKCD comic of like it's hard to know what's hard in computer science because it's like I need you to tell me the coordinates of this photograph. All right, that's easy to look up. That's just in the metadata. And then I need you to tell me if there's a bird in the picture. It's like, okay, I need a
Yeah,
research team and 5 years.
yeah, yeah,
Which
exactly.
used to be true, right? And now
Yeah.
it's just
No, it's
the
not.
same
Yeah.
as the coordinates. And this sort of thing with like computer enhanced used to be impossible. It's like,
Yeah.
look at
Yeah.
these dumb movies making this
Yeah, exactly.
impossible
And it was
thing
like, it
just
was
easy.
obviously hard because obviously you cannot put more information into a photo than there already
Yeah.
is, right? You can't invent new things, but now we can.
Turns out you just need to show the computer a billion photos, and then it learns how to fill in the blanks. It's crazy. Maybe that leads us to like vibe coding in general. So these past 2 years have been riveting, almost like it's gone so fast. From just like plainly asking ChatGPT things that you used to find on Stack Overflow to now like asking it to implement entire features or entire apps. Like, where are you on this? When I thought of you, I thought this is the type of thing that Morten would be all over. The vibe
I
coding
am
thing.
all over it. Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I am. Yeah.
So at least I know you that well, but but I am too, and I'm sort of feeling all the feelings. I'm feeling both like sad that I don't get to a program which I've found so much enjoyment in all these years, and also like the just like it's so nice that I don't have to spend time on all the boring parts that I used to dread. So it's like uh, it is really feeling all the feelings about
Yeah.
this new thing. How what are you like? Both like from like a feelings perspective, but also in a like a pragmatic, practical way. How are you using it? What are you thinking about it?
Yeah, yeah. No, I follow you. Part of the way it's a very complex situation, I think. I never liked programming. I liked having programmed, right? Having and you know having something that I'm proud of and something that I use myself, etc. But the actual programming is only fun for me when it has to do with the UI. So the rest, for if you ask me, can be a black box. I'm not very good at it. I suck at architecture, all those things, and I don't intend on learning it,
Yeah,
especially now. Every time I've released an app, it was like, this is a super hacky prototype, and it's been enough, right? And then I just solve the bugs one by one. Um, and now, obviously, I have Jens, who has way more experience, and he'd be like, "Hey, hold it a little bit. Let's do it the right way."
easy now,
So
cowboy.
exactly. But I think the AI is really good at these things, like structuring things. So what I've been enjoying recently is just creating a blank Xcode or Next.js project, committing it to GitHub, and then asking Codex to lay the foundation. And it did that extremely well for me. I made an icon generator this way and a PNG compressor app just last week, right? Two apps in 1 week, and I also did some other things. Um, so the output is really amazing at this time. Um, so
And
yeah,
was that
that's what
like,
I'm using it for.
do you describe the UI and then guide it along, or do you just like do
Yeah,
one
I told
huge?
it, I, I, I told it to get to a point. I don't remember what I did with the icon generator. I think I just did it actually. I think I gave it, yeah, I gave it like the API docs for the image generator and told it to do this. And I needed a grid here and a sidebar there. And I didn't go into detail about the UI because that's what I want to do. Right. So I just needed it to give me an ugly UI and then I would fix it up. And so it would
So it
give me
was
like just the uh, basic Swift UI, sidebar, ugly button, stuff like that. I would sweep in and do my thing, which I enjoy, right? I
nice.
could imagine
Okay, so
someone else doing it the other way. Like they don't like doing UI, they like doing backend, and then they can do it that way as well.
yeah, actually, that's what I've been sort of doing sometimes with Swift specifically because I don't know it that well. So just like for my app flickering, for example, I just told it to like make a radial menu, like,
Yeah, yeah.
and didn't have to bother about like all the trigonometry of rendering a circle and all that.
Shit, that's hardcore.
Yeah, 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 but I got to completely skip it, which was it's
Amazing.
yeah so interesting. Okay, so Codex is one that you're trying out now. That's OpenAI's. I don't know. I think they call it agentic, right? When you spin it off
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
it goes on by itself.
Exactly. It's one of those background things you can start and walk away, and you won't hear from it until it's done. Um,
So, so the icon generator is that the gonna be the death of the Figma file?
no, you know what? I ended up not using the icon generator for the icon generator. I used my Figma file.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was
Sometimes you need the structure.
yeah, 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 yeah. So that was a bit of a letdown. Maybe that's just, the death sentence for that app. But a couple of people on Twitter asked for a beta. If anyone wants, they can get in touch as well. It's really just an icon generator, Airbnb style.
Well, those, yeah,
It blends nicely with the classic macOS icon where you have like a base and some object on top, like a pen or a hammer or something like that, right?
yeah,
And OpenAI's the new image generator, GPT Image 1, is really good at making these objects. And it's really good at also making a transparent background, which is
yeah,
interesting in image generation. Never seen that before. So
yeah.
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it used to be. You used to have to tell it to make it like a plain white background and then mask
Yeah,
it
and then you
afterwards
could,
or something.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, this is really great. Interestingly, that's not a diffusion model. It's something else.
yeah.
So it's
Auto-regressive something?
yeah, and then like the diffusion model is the one where they start with like a grid of noise, and then it's slowly like boil it down to the image, where they
Mhm.
do something else. And then
Yeah,
interestingly, I saw a Google Gemini experiment where they
yeah,
found out that for text generation and code generation, the diffusion model was actually quite good, like really
yeah. It's
fast.
fun.
So start
Yeah,
with just like a blob of text, and then
yeah.
slowly shape it down to instead of like starting from the
And it
start
is
and then
so sci-fi, like a sci-fi movie.
yeah. And it's fun to be at the forefront, like to just like
Yeah,
experience this happening, where they just like
yeah.
yeah, completely cutting edge technology getting invented in front of our eyes.
That diffusion text model is interesting because it can really speed things up, right? It's almost like it can generate an app in the time it would normally take to download the app. And
Yeah,
then it's
yeah,
like then it's interesting because now we have like infinite generated apps, infinite apps for everyone. Like
instant almost.
yeah, instant and
Yeah,
personalized and ephemeral. It just goes away a second after you used it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's crazy to think about. So Codex is one. Do you use anything in like your VS Code or whatever editor you're in? Xcode?
Yeah,
I
yeah, I use
found
all of them. I use everything.
all of it.
So I use Codex. I sometimes I start Codex and Jules at the same time with the same task, so I can
Which one?
compare jules.google.com, which is free Codex. Google is
Oh,
testing.
all right. So it's just using Gemini instead of
It's using Gemini.
Pro
Yeah,
4 or whatever.
yeah, exactly. It's great. I also have some Devon credits. Um, so those are the background ones. Then in VS Code, today I'm working with Claude Code in VS in the Cursor, which I kind of like it. I have to say I didn't
So
expect
do you mean Claude the models, not Claude Code the tool, right?
Claude Code the tool. Yeah.
Okay, inside of Cursor.
Yes.
All
So
right.
here's a really I can't explain how it works, but if you go into Cursor and you open
Yeah.
the terminal in Cursor and you type Claude in there, you'll get a small Claude icon at the top of your VS Code. I have
Ah,
no idea
nice.
how they do it. It's not an extension. You click
No, no,
that,
no.
Claude becomes a pane in VS Code, and it
Nice.
can interact with the code panes next to it.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't
Yeah,
even realize that you could run it like embedded in that sense.
yeah,
Crazy.
it's really cool, and I like how it's different, right? It's from Cursor's agent. I
Yeah.
like how it's like
Yeah.
making small plans and executing
Yeah.
them and asking me if it can run the server and try and test stuff. It feels
Yeah.
more agentic. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, Cursor is sort of more like finicking. Like it's adding like writing the code itself is gonna suggest things and that's nice, but you're still in there working with it. Where the Cloud Code thing or the agentic thing is more like just go do it and
Yeah, yeah,
like
figure it out.
come back
Yeah,
to
yeah,
me
yeah.
when you're ready.
And I could see today it was almost panicking in trying to not involve me, right? So what it did was it said, "Hey, can I start the Next.js server? I just want to try something." Okay, okay. So I
Yeah,
started it. I let it start the Next.js server. Every time it does something agentic with the system, you can say, "Yes, you can do it, but only this time," or you can
yeah,
say, "Yeah, it's fine. Just do it whenever you want."
yeah.
So I let it start the next server, and then it started curl. It started curling to localhost
Oh yeah, to see if it works. Yeah.
to see the result of its own work, right? Which is a bad idea in React because you won't be.
Oh yeah,
I
that's
guess you
right.
won't
Yeah,
see it. Yeah, but you
you
know,
don't get the client side parts.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, if it was debugging server side, maybe it would be okay, but it was not. It was impressive, but not impressive at all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So in that sense, really it's a junior developer.
Yeah, yeah,
You still have
exactly.
to guide it
That's something
along.
a junior would do. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but still, like it's smart enough to know that you can curl, but then not smart enough to
Yeah.
know that you
Yeah,
shouldn't
yeah,
curl
yeah.
this specific
Yeah.
project.
It should
That's
run a
funny.
headless Chrome instead or whatever, something else.
Yeah. So you're all in on all the tools, and you use all of them all of the time. Do you find like differences between them?
Yeah, lots of differences. Yeah. I really
Yeah.
think that I mean, I don't use Windsurf and all that. I only use Cursor. But then I use everything inside of Cursor. I love Cursor rules and all those things. Um, I use Gemini as my go-to model in Cursor.
Right.
And then sometimes I go O3 max when it's something really difficult and something that takes a lot of brain power. Yeah.
Yeah. So your approach is to try all the things. Yeah. I think that's what I'm finding too. That they are so different in the end that you have to know when to use what, and not even just like the specific types of like into like the thinking models or the deep research models or the quick ones, but also in the outputs. Like every deep research model is going to give you different
Yeah.
outputs,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, and that's just interesting to know and start to feel like I feel like this is a problem that I should give to
Yes.
X model.
Exactly. It's like getting to know your team, right? And you have all
Yeah,
these people on the
yeah.
team, and it's like, I know what this guy wants, so he's probably going to be happy doing this kind of thing. And then it's also for us product builders, it's not a bad idea to build this intuition so you always know what can be done and what is at the cutting edge right now.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I'm actually starting to like I've been Claude maxing. I like the outputs of Claude and the ways of the robot, I guess. but still, like it's fun to try all the things.
Absolutely.
You've always been. You had a blog way back when. You had a few. One was like people mispronouncing your name, like typing it wrong, which is a problem that we share, like having a Danish sounding
Yeah,
names.
yeah.
Do you still have that problem? Still, people still call you Morton, stuff like that.
Not as, I mean, it went away when Starbucks introduced the order ahead in the app, so you could
Oh,
just go in
okay.
there.
So
So now it's
it was
always
mostly the cups.
flawless. Yeah, it was always cuffs. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it was also like when back when Zip was acquired by Vodafone, we got all these new coworkers who weren't Danish, and none of them could spell my name. That was just
The
funny.
Yeah. Also because it was like in the email at times. It's like Morton at something, and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
would
yeah,
write like,
yeah,
come
yeah,
up with new ways to spell it instead of the one that was right in front of them.
yeah, yeah,
It was just
yeah.
fun.
Incredible.
Uh, but also you had a blog of like being the idea guy, making drawing prototypes. I remember specifically the office chair that followed you around the office, which was just a fun idea. There was also some with like caravans, like
Yeah,
with building
self-driving.
something, or like
Yeah,
um, the trucks that would display things on the road in front of you
oh, yeah, yeah,
while
yeah, yeah.
driving. Yeah, just some of them stuck in my brain, and that's the power of visual, I guess.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's really cool. They stuck in my brain as well, but I also spent a lot of time making them.
Yeah,
Like the projector, car projector. Like every car would have a projector that would show stuff on the road.
yeah,
I loved that idea, but it was also an interesting. It was also just fun for me to learn After Effects that way. That was how we would do motion prototypes back in
yeah.
2013-ish, right? There was no Figma prototyping or anything like that. Yeah.
No, yeah, but the drawing itself, like sketches, I guess, seems like a thing that you learned on purpose, I guess is the right way to put it. Like you put in some effort to be good at this thing, which is like sketching ideas.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah, yeah,
true?
yeah, very true.
And
And I'm
was
still
that
trying to learn
from?
it.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
It's
lifelong
hard,
skill, I guess.
super
One of
hard. Yeah.
those, yeah, you can always be better at. But was that from the realization that I'm an idea guy? I need a way to uh,
Yeah.
show
Yes.
show things, get them out
Yes,
of
it
my
totally
head. Yeah,
was.
yeah,
I think, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, a huge part of my professional life has been about convincing engineers to build stuff. And for a long time, I thought, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to be really good at convincing them instead of learning to code, right? So I think when I finally learned how to code, I didn't really have the need to convince people to with sketches and so on, and also with AI image generation stuff like that. It feels kind of mm, underwhelming to publish a drawing.
Oh, so now that like the feeling of it is different, even though you drew it
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah, I think so. But I still like the idea of drawing. But it feels like today you could just generate a full VO3 commercial with actors that are better than real live actors. This is like a weird place in history where it's like, is it worth it for me to, expend the energy when I could just write a prompt? Have you noticed that you become kind of lazy, kind of shortcutting, cheating, cheat coding?
Yeah, I've definitely tried that. But for the sketching specifically, have you used it to tell the AIs to what to? I think you.
Yeah,
I mean, you're saving the UI for yourself, so that should like
yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
perhaps tell the story that's the part that you want to keep. Um, but that's actually something that I've tried, like sketching the UI and then sending it to the machines, because this is specifically how I imagine it,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
which I think
I
would
do that
work.
as well, but not hand sketching. I just draw a bunch of rectangles in Figma to tell it, loosely, this is kind of where we're going with it.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess the first thing that I thought of was that like I can instantly recognize a Morten Just drawing. So there's something in
Okay.
there that's just like
Yeah,
not plain information, right? There's something in there
that's a good
that's
point.
you, and that part is not going to come from the AI.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's the same with the music and the code, and the
Yes.
videos and everything. There's just like something in there that you can call
Yeah, it's
whatever you want.
true.
If it's soul, if
Yeah.
it's like human, just call it whatever you want. But I don't think that anyone's going to be like it's going to argue that there's something in there that can be like tell you which artist essentially this came from. Um, so in that sense, I would be sad if you stop drawing entirely because of this,
Yeah, no, no,
because I like
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
I like that part of a Modern Just drawing, and I definitely feel myself taking shortcuts and also burning my fingers. An English expression, I'm not sure, but like I sometimes get too eager with the Claude code, and it ends up generating a whole bunch of code that I then don't know what to do with. Like, do I keep talking to you to fix it? Do I just scrap it? Do I try to fix it myself manually? Like, how do I get out of this mess that we
Yeah.
created together?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
True.
I'm definitely seeing myself take some shortcuts that I shouldn't have taken, or using the tool wrong is what I'm coming to the realization of, that this was like just me using the tool wrong. I should have, instead of making it code, I should have made it make plans, or I should have known my own like intention from the get go. Right now, I'm doing a thing with Claude Code of what are we even doing? Like my system, Funnymost, as like users upload a video file, and I send it to a service called Mux, and it transcodes it into like different qualities, so the user can like the whole deal. And this part specifically, I was trying to make Claude Code do, and we just generated so much code. So in the end, I was like, I don't feel I can use this even.
Yeah. I know that feeling, especially it happens when there's a lot of iteration, when it
Yeah,
makes a bug, and then you
yeah,
ask it to fix the bug and it writes more code instead of just
yeah,
scrapping what it did and coming back to it. Yeah,
yeah.
I absolutely know that feeling.
Definitely. So that was the situation. And what I ended up doing was taking what we did and then recreating the parts that I liked in a separate branch. Even I think it was even this time it was just a separate file, but but the concept is the same. So it was essentially exploring in one branch with the robot, and then when I finally figured out like how I wanted to do it, and like take maybe 60-80% of what it did uh, as like only planning, or like a an exploration phase, and then doing what I actually wanted afterwards. So it ended up being good, but like I think the error there would be to just accept the way that it led me, instead of like going a step back, or giving up entirely on using it. That would be a failure too, right? Then I
Yeah.
just wasted 2 days.
Yeah.
It wasn't 2 days. It was more likely 2 hours,
Two
but
hours. Yeah,
still.
yeah, yeah. Still. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So I definitely see some
yeah, I've had
shortcuts,
some of
and
those as well. Sorry.
yeah, that's right. And that's, I think, part of like aside from knowing which models to use, also knowing like you are still in control, right? You just have to rediscover that whatever the code it spits out, you're still in control, and that's still part of the job, to be the senior engineer that still has
Yes.
like last say on everything. Yeah,
I think that's the important part. When Codex came out, I upgraded to ChatGPT Pro, or what it's called, Ultra, whatever it is, and I just had it do like a bunch of stuff at the same time, and then come back to me. And I
yeah,
got a flashback to being a manager again with engineers working, and then they come back and show, is this what you wanted? And
yeah,
yes, what we wanted, right? We're a team, bro. But this is kind of different. It's like okay, so now it's coming back with a branch for me, and I can check that out, and I can give it feedback, and it could go back and work again, and then I could look at another branch. I think that's probably, if we wanted to, that's maybe how the work is going to be, happening, is that you just check and give feedback, and you see what they did, and you give feedback. I have a friend who is a who's been a manager, a design manager at Intercom for a long time, and he said he feels particularly, well positioned to work with AI because he's been doing nothing but giving very
Yeah,
precise feedback that, that people understand and can act on and go back and do exactly what, they
yeah.
get the idea after this. And I totally buy
It's
it.
almost like
I agree.
he's been doing reinforcement learning on himself his entire
Yeah,
career.
yeah, yeah. He's basically been doing vibe coding for 10 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's crazy. But yeah, you might be right. I mean, but yeah, there's also something in there with like the completely in the weeds, detail oriented engineers that are doing performance work or whatever. They still do get some benefit from not having to look up APIs or like yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
This yeah, it's
yeah.
just a benefit for everyone. But well, Morten, this was really nice to see you again and to get your take on things and hear how everything's going with the Otato Empire.
Yeah, it was great to be here.
What's new in Rotato? If any of the apps that you talked about sound interesting to folks, so of course they can go to otato.app and get what they need. And then yeah, back to the question. Anything new coming up?
Um, we we started last year doing a web version because we do have a ton of Windows people who come like very disappointed and say, when is this ever going to be a Windows version of Potato? And until recently, I just told them never. We're not going to do it. But I can take your email and then maybe I'll invite you. But now the tools like React and React 3 Fiber and all these tools are getting really good. So a year ago, we built a simple web version of Rotato, and that has now been running, and it's actually monetized now, and it's growing, and yeah. So that's what we're doing for Rotato.
Wow,
Yeah, but it's
crazy.
hard. It's like
So
it's
it's working.
super different. It is working. It's super slow, but it's like I looked at Chart Mogul. Chart Mogul has like the Chart Mogul is basically they offer to hook into your Stripe or Paddle, and then they analyze your subscription data. Subscription's completely new to me, so this is really helpful. They also have something called benchmarks. So they say, we have SaaSes hooked up to Chart Mogul, so we know like what is the typical progression? How long does it take for a
Oh,
typical median SaaS to get to 50K ARR or 100K ARR or 20 million? So, and they have these graphs as like hockey sticks. And I was super surprised. I thought we were failing completely, but we're right in the middle. It just, it's actually just right before the hockey stick goes up. So hopefully it'll stay on. I hope I didn't jinx it, but yeah.
I think our 20 listeners are gonna love it. Jump on it. And the two of them that use Windows, especially. All right, Morten. Well, nice seeing you, and thank you for being onto something. Maybe I'll call you again sometime when Peter has to see to one of his
Anytime.
million jobs. It's great.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
Bye.